What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 My Team career mode. Last time out we were at the Imola Grand Prix, and despite it being one of my worst tracks on the F1 calendar, we managed to get the strategy exactly right. Started on a set of softs, and an early safety car allowed us to take advantage and pit for some hards to the end, which got us into the lead of the race, and we ended up winning it for the first time in our career after 5 cracks of the whip, I guess it is, because Imola wasn't on the calendar in Season 2. But yeah, it was never a track that went particularly well for me, so I'm very happy about that. And also Albon managed to recover up the grid from 17th to 3rd to score good points for the team as well. This time out, we're going to be in Miami, which is a track I do quite enjoy, and I typically go quite well around here. I've won here at least once, and I've had a handful of podiums as well. So, yeah, pretty good. Looking at this gearbox, I'm thinking maybe it needs changing, but in the end, I decide I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to try and take it one more race, because that will put us in good stead for making it to the end with our allocated components. Even if we've already had a couple of mechanical failures, we may have to suffer some penalties later in the season. The idea is hopefully if I can get as many good results now, then hopefully the penalties won't matter so much in the future. We're only a few points off of second place in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, but we're still a good 20 points adrift of Alex Albon, who's on top, having won 2 races each among the two of us. But he had a stronger result in I can't remember where it was. I guess he's just had stronger results all around compared to me. I think maybe in the races that I won, he had stronger results in those compared to the races that he won. Which I actually DNF'd in one of those. Looking now at the performance chart, you can see that actually Alfa Romeo are currently the 5th fastest team in Formula 1, which is kind of incredible to me because they rarely ever make it out of Q2, and I've barely ever seen them get through to Q3. Oh, sorry, they rarely ever make it into Q2. And I barely ever see them make it into Q3. So, yeah, it's kind of impressive to think that they're the 5th fastest team. Perhaps they need to look at investing in some better driver talent. I don't want to shit talk their drivers too much, Teo Pourchaire and Christian Lundgaard. They are pretty talented, but yeah, not delivering the results that you would want. Practice session started wet, but ended up drying out, and I waited until it was dry to try and get out on the track. We ended up going 3rd fastest, so that was pretty good. But Alex Albon there on top, doing just Albon things at the moment. He's been absolutely on top of his game recently. Even in the races that he hasn't been winning, he's been getting consistent podiums. It was only the first race of the season really where I've been disappointed with his performance across the whole weekend. He's always managed to find a way to turn it around, even when he gets a poor qualifying. So yeah, I have the utmost confidence that he is going to give me a tough battle all the way to the death of this championship. And yeah, I mean, obviously I hope that there's more people involved as well. No one likes one team dominating Formula 1. It wasn't interesting in 2014, and it isn't interesting now either. So yeah, we hope that we can have, you know, the likes of Leclerc, Norris, those kind of guys maybe get involved in the championship fight. Verstappen as well, perhaps. But he's getting on a bit at this point. He'd be about 30 by this point, I think. And yeah, yet to win a championship since his first one back in 2021. So yeah, lots to think about who might get involved in the championship fight. Despite being the worst team on the grid, the Alpines have actually been looking pretty solid this season. Ocon got a 2nd place finish in Imola behind me, because he was on a good strategy as well. So yeah, I think that you can't write them off just because they're the worst team on the grid. I think driver performance goes a long way now. As we come up to the line on our final lap of Q1, we do a 1:26.4. And that was good enough to see us through in P2. So if we can get that kind of result in Q3, I'll be pretty happy with that. You know, obviously I'm aiming for pole, but I'm not going to be disappointed with sort of a top 3, and that'd be absolutely fine. Especially if it's Albon on top as well. You know, he's done pretty well there to get himself onto the top spot, but I'm sure that the rest of the cars behind me will probably improve as qualifying goes on. The biggest shock, definitely Charles Leclerc being eliminated in Q1. He was actually pretty far off Q2. He was 2 tenths away from, I think it was Pourchaire in 16th there. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, he disappointingly, given that Ferrari's one of the fastest cars on the grid, didn't make it out of Q1. He'll be starting 18th in in the race. So yeah, we now move into Q2. It's a 127.2 to kick things off on a used set of soft compound tyres, but I'm sure if we put on a set of fresh soft compound tyres, we'll be able to improve on that quite a lot, and indeed we do. You can see we're about 7/10ths up as we come towards the line. We're improving even more, and it's going to be another 126.4 as we cross the line. This time though, only good enough to put us P4, so a little bit further behind from where we were last session, but that's to be expected. People ramp up and I kind of stayed where I was, but it was still good enough to see me through. And yeah, now we just have to wait for Q3 to see what we can do there. Gasly and Verstappen both on top there, Red Bull 1-2 in Q2, but hopefully that won't translate to Q3. Meanwhile, both Mercedes being eliminated, but honestly, Joe not doing too bad to be this close to his teammate compared to where he's been in previous sessions, you know, in previous seasons as well. He's, you know, sometimes failed to make it out of Q1, where Russell's gone and put it, you know, in the top 5. So, yeah, Joe, very disappointing for that Mercedes team. I think this could be his last season there if things don't start working out then and there. Verstappen has a 125.8, which is going to be very tough for me to beat. I do a banker on a used set of tyres, 126.9, but to improve on that by a second on a fresh set of tyres, I think is going to be maybe a bit too big of an ask. So yeah, I think pole might already be out of reach. We are already 7/10ths up as we come down this massive final straight, and if we can nail that final corner, I think we can probably find another 10th or so, but that still won't be good enough for us to get pole position. It won't be enough to topple that 125.8. He is just you know, really gone and absolutely beaten out the rest of the competition here as we round the final few corners. Now you can see we are about 8/10ths up. We come up to the line. It's a 126.1, which in the end is good enough to put us P3. So we'll be starting in the top 3. It's not too bad. I would have liked to have been on the front row, but I'll take a P3.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves once again of our top 3. Verstappen, Sainz and Robinson. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
It's a little bit disappointing perhaps to see Albon all the way down in 9th, given how good he was looking at the start of qualifying in the first 2 sessions. You know, he was on top in Q1 and P3 in Q2 to only qualify 9th in the end. I think he'll be very disappointed with that. But he, you know, he's had disappointing qualifyings in previous races, and he's always found a way to fight his way through the field. So I'm still confident that that he'll be able to deliver a good result for the team come race day. But I mean, if he doesn't, this could be my opportunity to take the lead of the championship. If I can get into the lead of the race and Albon can't improve any positions, then I actually will take the lead of the championship, just about. So yeah, I'm going to be pushing like mad because, you know, despite the fact he's my teammate and obviously I want the best success for him, I want to win the championship for myself as well. So I'm going to try and do everything I can in this race to see if I can get myself into the lead as now we prepare to get into the race.
Welcome to the Miami International Autodrome, home of the Miami Grand Prix. This exciting track circumnavigates the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the National Football League outfit, the Miami Dolphins. A lap of the Miami Grand Prix features 3.36 miles of track around the Hard Rock Stadium, and 19 corners make up the Miami International Autodrome, which will challenge the drivers in a tight wheel-to-wheel race. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Robinson, Norris, Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Gasly, Albon and Kevin Magnussen, Russell, Joe, Oscar Piastri and Stroll, Théo Pourchaire, Mick Schumacher, Christian Lundgaard and Charles Leclerc, Fittipaldi, Latifi, Tsunoda and Robert Schwartzman. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Now I wonder, Anthony Davidson, might we be in for some early pit stops today from the midfield teams? Trying to put a bit of pressure on or disrupt things for the leaders?
If you're in the middle of the pack, you know, you got your own race to run. I don't think they're going to be thinking about causing trouble up front. However, closer to the head of the pack, don't be surprised to see some split strategies. If you're running second and third, for example, bringing one car in for an undercut while leaving the other one out there longer can put a lot of pressure on the leader and maybe force them into an error.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
Right then, we got 2 wins on the bounce. Obviously, one of those I think was from pole, if I remember correctly. In China, we had a very strong performance there, but Imola, we were not on pole by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, we barely started within the top 10. We got very lucky on the strategy there. But here, we are definitely in a position where we could try and get into the lead of the race. You know, Verstappen starting on the soft compound tyres is going to make him very hard to overtake. But Sainz starting on those mediums, I definitely think I could jump him off at the start. And then maybe we could try and put some pressure on Verstappen later over the course of the race. We'll see what happens, but we get a good parking, so that's going to allow us to hopefully get ahead of Sainz as we kick off the race. Everyone else now forming up, including Albon, who's down in 9th, very disappointing, but hopefully he can make a bit of progress through the field to score some good points, maintain his championship lead, or maybe I can take it, who knows. But either way, that's enough talk as the lights come on, and the lights go out. And we have gotten away just as well as I expected. We're already putting pressure on Carlos Sainz here. He's going to have no choice but to go to the inside. And actually, he squeezes Max Verstappen in the middle between myself and him. And that allows me to sweep around the outside and take the lead of the Miami Grand Prix. I was not expecting to be able to do that. But Carlos Sainz going for that dive bomb, a bit unexpected on Verstappen there. I don't even think Sainz knew he was going to do it until it was kind of too late to back out. Caught Max Verstappen completely unawares, squeezed him in the middle. And that was how he just completely lost out. It's very reminiscent of Bottas in Mexico in 2021, I believe it was, where Hamilton was coming up his inside, Verstappen was going around the outside, he got squeezed to the middle, and I mean in that scenario, Verstappen didn't get tagged from behind by Ricciardo, which is what happened to Bottas in real life. But you know, nonetheless, the initial moment of it was at least very reminiscent of that. But either way, we have made our way into the lead, and now I'm just going to hope I can have the world's most comfortable race. You know, obviously for the entertainment value, I'm sure that you hope that doesn't happen. But for me personally, I'll be crossing my fingers and hoping that we can just continue to extend the gap to Carlos Sainz behind until such time that we win the race. But you know, rarely is that the kind of thing that happens. You can see already that in the sort of straightaways and on the exit of corners, it seems like they have a lot of traction and a lot more speed than myself. I was about a second ahead of Carlos Sainz going into that long straight, and now at the end of the first corner, I only found myself about 4/10 up. And so on lap 3, you can see that this gap has not increased by any. And actually, Carlos Sainz now with the DRS is breezing past me. And yeah, the AI just has so much pace compared to me at the moment. I tap him on the back a little bit there, and that actually gave me a tiny bit of front wing damage, but I didn't know until it was too late to really, you know, do anything about it. So I actually didn't find out till after the race that had happened when I was watching replays and stuff. So yeah, that yeah, a little bit annoying, but it didn't really compromise our performance any to what I was aware of. In fact, if anything, it was kind of good for the time being. Whilst we can stay on the back of Carlos Sainz, it means that we got a bit of DRS, so we can stay ahead of Verstappen, who is, I would say, the driver that we're really fighting here, probably on the same strategy as him. But now we move on to onto lap 5, and you can see that they are saying that my tyres apparently are looking good, but they don't look good to me. 40% on both of the rear tyres is quite a lot for only 4.5 laps driven, and indeed, very shortly afterwards, they are telling me I need to check my MFD to come in a lap earlier than initially planned, which that doesn't suggest that the tyres are looking good. That suggests that if I stay out for even one extra lap, the tyres could potentially blow up. So yeah, we're going to be pitting a lap early. We're going to be doing 21 laps on the medium tyres, but I think we should be able to make that work. And now we find ourselves one lap later, and we're going to see if we can put a bit of pressure on Carlos Sainz. But again, these guys are just so fast down the straights. Even with the battery and the DRS advantage, I only gain on him by like a 10th down the straight. It's absolutely ridiculous. I guess they must just have their car set up in a completely different way to me. That's pretty much all I can think of. But something that did surprise me a little bit was to see Verstappen actually coming into the pits here on lap 6. so I didn't know what kind of strategy he was doing at this point, but I assumed he'd probably just be going on a set of either mediums or hards to the end of the Grand Prix. Now we have our first retirement from the race, and that is Robert Schwartzman in the Haas. Unsurprising to see that, he is struggling a little bit. It's not the most reliable car on the grid by any stretch of the imagination, and that is a disappointment for him. Who he's had his moments of brilliance in the Alfa Romeo and in the Haas, which are the two teams that he's really been at since he left our team. But on the whole, it's not been the best time of things for him. Lap 8 now, and we do finally come into the pits. This is exactly what we said we were going to do, and I maintain this is probably the right thing to do to make sure that we don't mess up the tyres by staying out an extra lap. And indeed, we are going to be putting on the medium tyres to the end, and we'll see where we come out in relation to Verstappen here. It looks like he actually might be a tiny bit ahead of us, so we're gonna have to try and get back ahead of him again. And he is on the medium tyres, so I don't know if he's going to try and do 23 laps on the mediums or what the case is. But I can't imagine he'd be doing a two-stop, because that just doesn't seem like a feasible strategy at all. Moving on now to lap 11, we actually get a bit of a run on him through the Mickey Mouse section. We sweep around the outside and take that position back. We contact him briefly, and we actually get warned about that by Mark. But it's not going to matter too much, because at the end of the day, he had the DRS, and he also had insane speed down this straight, which means I couldn't contend with him. He was quite far ahead by the time we got to the end of the straight, so I had no choice but to let that position go and try and fight it on another occasion. A few cars that were starting on the softs, I think, and I think it was just on the softs, finally coming into the pits, including Pourchaire and Joe. So we now find ourselves up into P11. But all the medium runners, people who started on the mediums, still have to come in and pit. So there's a lot of positions still to be gained. I think myself and Verstappen will probably come out about P2 and P3 at the moment. I don't know. It's really going to depend on where Carlos Sainz is more than anything. He was obviously leading this Grand Prix before I pitted, and I imagine he's still doing that. I don't know for certain. But if I was a gambling man, I would assume that is who was currently in the lead of the Grand Prix. We're going to have the DRS now to try and challenge Verstappen. I burned quite a lot of battery down this straight, but we are now ahead coming into the Mickey Mouse section this time, and that is pretty good, because this is the section of the track where historically I've always been a lot faster than the AI. I think just this sort of tight section of corners they're not particularly good at taking for whatever reason, and it means that I'm able to extend quite a gap on them through it. So by the time we get to lap 14, you can see that the gap to Verstappen is about a second, but he does have DRS here and there, so we're still under quite a bit of pressure from him. A few medium runners now coming in, including Carlos Sainz, and we are a lot further ahead than him, which kind of suggests that this strategy was probably the superior one to be on. We came in 7 laps ago, and we managed to extend a massive gap on him. And now as we come to the end of the lap, everyone else on the mediums coming in, including Albon and Ocon and the McLaren of Lando Norris. So they're all fitting the hard compound tyres to the end. I don't know if they will be potentially a threat towards the end of the race. I think it's actually going to be quite close between Norris and Sainz on pit exit. Norris might just have it, but we are currently in the lead of the race. But I think it's going to be Verstappen, pole sitter, who is pressuring us to the end. I say that actually he's coming into the pits again off those medium compound tyres. So I guess he must have been on a 2-stop or something. I don't know why he'd be doing that. That really doesn't seem like an optimal strategy in any race that we do. Pretty much every race that we do now is always a 1-stop, because there's just no opportunity to do a 2-stop. But that kind of made things a little bit trivial. Now all I've got to worry about really is Lando Norris closing the gap to me before the end of the race. We've got 5 or 6 laps left. He is on the hard compound tyres, which in this phase of the Grand Prix will absolutely be faster than... How old are these mediums? Like 16, 17 laps? His hard compound tyres will be faster than my mediums by this point, no doubt. Coupled with the fact that he's probably got the car set up quite nicely. That was someone retiring from the Grand Prix. We'll see who it was in just a moment, I imagine. But we're going to have to actually push quite hard, I think, to try and keep this position. Because, I don't want Lando Norris to get into DRS range, or he will overtake me. We've ascertained this. But anyway, who was it that retired from the Grand Prix? Let's find out. It was the Williams of Enzo Fittipaldi. Back in Formula 1 after a few seasons' absence, his Miami Grand Prix comes to an abrupt end, and that is a bit disappointing, but I don't think he was running in the points. So, not the end of the world. But nonetheless, it might be a little bit annoying for him in the future if he's going to take grid penalties and the like. Lap 27 now, and the gap to Norris is 2.4 seconds. So he's going to have to make up about 8 tenths per lap, but like I said, really it's about keeping him out of DRS range. I need to keep that gap above 1 second, because if he falls into it for even a moment, I really think that this race is going to be over for us as far as the win is concerned, at least. We're still going to walk away with P2, I think, no matter what happens. I can't see Carlos Sainz closing this gap down. We're actually, still extending our advantage over Carlos Sainz at this stage. But Lando Norris really is the guy that we're going to have to be paying a lot of attention to if we want to win this Grand Prix. We have to make sure that our gap to him remains constant, or at least doesn't fall by too much. He was about 4 seconds behind us on like lap 20 or so. So we've done a good job of maintaining this, but I've been pushing very hard. I've been utilizing the battery as much as I possibly can. You can see that at the end of some of these sections, the battery is coming down to about 10% or so. If I go any lower than that, then we are probably going to run out of battery on this lap, which might not be too much of a problem. I still don't think that Norris can catch us when we're about 2 seconds ahead of him. But, my tyres are very worn out by this point. Not only that, my gearbox, which you may remember from the beginning of the race, is also fairly worn out at this point, which isn't doing much, but probably isn't doing wonders for my traction on corner exit. So, it's a little bit of a headache, but I think we are probably going to hold on to this. It was just, I had to focus on a lot of things, so I was surprised that I was managing to drive as cleanly as I possibly could, especially on a track which is pretty much, a street circuit, lots of walls and stuff. So, quite a tricky challenge, but we have managed to make it work. And as we round the final corner, I don't think anything is going to be stopping us now from winning the Miami Grand Prix. And we cross the line to take our 3rd race win in a row, and what a recovery this has been.
We wrap up yet another incredible Grand Prix weekend. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
The faces on our top 3 look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
Well, I would have to say it was a pretty brilliant performance, considering we were on such a wildly different setup than most of the cars around us. They were so much faster in the straights, and there are a lot of straights here in Miami. So, I'm pretty elated with that performance, and I can only hope we can keep this run of form going, because compared to the first 3 races, it has been a blinding 3 races. 3 wins on the bounce. Very, very satisfied with that. Next up is Spain, and I hope that we can keep the good fortune going there.
Now let's take a look at the driver's standings. Despite the best efforts of our championship leader, that lead has taken a bit of a knock today. Some amazing talent out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Robinson. They pushed and pushed and found some fantastic performance. It was just a pleasure to watch.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. There was also a strong showing from the Mercedes team today as they make their way up the standings. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
Well, we're only 3 points away from Alex Albon now at the top of the table. And that's maybe looking good. We might be poised to take the lead of the championship. The only downside is that we're kind of coming to the end of our really dominant patch of the calendar. The first 5 or 6 races on the calendar are usually the ones where I'm extremely good, and then it takes a little while after that for me to really get back into the rhythm. The midpoint of the season is always a bit of a lull. Maybe sometimes I pick up a win in Austria or Belgium or the Netherlands or something like that. But, Austria isn't on the calendar for starters, so that one's out the window on this occasion. Belgium and the Netherlands, I don't know what's going to happen in those two, but I think it could go any which way. But yeah, we've got a long while to wait for me to get back into comfortable territory in the final few races of the season. I have a strong start and a strong finish usually, and this start has not been as strong as I would have liked it, because we had those 2 DNFs at the beginning of the season and that difficult race in Australia as well, where I really fumbled the bag on the strategy. You know, I hope that doesn't come back to haunt me, but there are going to be a number of difficult races for me coming up now, including Spain, Monaco, Canada. They're never races that I don't think I've ever won at any of those circuits I just named. I've had some decent results at a few of them, podiums and whatnot, but never a win. And any race I'm not winning is a race that someone else is scoring more points than I am. So yeah, we have to be on our guard. We have to make sure that we continue to pump in good results, at least try and get on the podium in those races. I think Monaco is going to be incredibly difficult to do that now. You know, you've been seeing how much I've been struggling and really having to push very hard to keep up with the AI. So I can only imagine that Monaco is not going to be the jewel in the crown of my championship defense. But hopefully it will at least be a somewhat good race, and we can take a few points away from that. But we do have Spain to worry about next, which you know, I was saying this before. It is a track that I feel like I have grown to kind of enjoy a little bit more than I used to. In no small part due to the fact that I feel like it always throws up really fun races for me. I never qualify particularly well, but I always make so many overtakes. You know, we managed to recover our way from sort of, I think it was P8 or P9 last season to finish P2, so that was really encouraging. And yeah, you know, I just I hope that we can have a similar kind of race. Maybe if I can get a good qualifying there, we can kind of nullify the need to charge back through the field. But I do kind of like those drives. They are quite fun. So I hope that it's at least fun. It usually is in Spain, and I hope that this season throws no exception to that rule. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe. Your support has been absolutely amazing recently, and I hope it continues. But until next time, I hope I will see you in the next one.